She'd been photographing weddings across Los Angeles for 8 years, capturing beautiful moments, staying invisible behind her camera, making couples look their best on the most important day of their lives. Just a talented artist in her late 30s who had an eye for composition and a gift for making nervous brides feel comfortable. Until she was hired to photograph a high-profile wedding where the bride confided that her ex-boyfriend had been sending threatening messages, and in the tense hours that followed, everyone discovered that their calm photographer wasn't just good at capturing moments, she was a former military intelligence officer who had spent a decade conducting threat assessment and protective operations, and she still knew exactly how to neutralize danger before it could materialize. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this compelling story of hidden vigilance and protective instincts, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who continue protecting in ways most people never see. Rachel Martinez arrived at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles at 10 a.m., 3 hours before the ceremony, as she always did for wedding photography. At 39 years old, Rachel had built a successful business capturing one of life's most important celebrations. Her portfolio was impressive, her client reviews glowing, and her calendar booked months in advance with couples who trusted her to document their special day. Rachel carried her professional camera equipment into the bridal suite where the bride, her bridesmaids, and family were preparing for the 1 p.m. ceremony. This was the part Rachel loved, the anticipation, the joy, the nervous energy as everyone prepared for the moment when two families would join together. The bride, Amanda Chen, was a successful entertainment lawyer marrying her college sweetheart, Michael. It was a high-profile wedding with 250 guests, an elaborate venue, and the kind of budget that allowed for perfect details. Rachel had photographed hundreds of weddings, but something about this one felt different from the moment she walked into the bridal suite. Amanda seemed more nervous than most brides, not the normal wedding day anxiety, but something deeper. She kept checking her phone with a worried expression, and Rachel noticed the bride's mother and maid of honor exchanging concerned looks. What nobody at the wedding knew was that before Rachel Martinez became a wedding photographer in Los Angeles, she had been Captain Rachel Martinez, United States Army Military Intelligence, specializing in threat assessment and protective operations. 10 years of active duty, including 3 deployments where she conducted intelligence analysis, threat evaluation, and security planning for high-value personnel in hostile environments. Rachel had left the military 5 years ago, wanting work that was creative rather than analytical, joyful rather than threat-focused, about celebrating life rather than protecting against danger. Wedding photography had given her that transformation. She was still observing, still detail-oriented, still hyper-aware of her surroundings, but now she captured beautiful moments instead of potential threats. As Rachel photographed the bridal preparations, hairstyling, makeup application, the bride stepping into her dress, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her military intelligence training had taught her to read body language, recognize stress patterns, and identify when someone was afraid rather than just nervous. During a quiet moment when the bride was alone adjusting her veil, Rachel approached gently. "Amanda, I know this is a personal question, but is everything okay? You seem more stressed than most brides I work with." Amanda looked at Rachel and for a moment seemed to consider whether to confide in someone she'd only met once before during their planning session. Something about Rachel's calm, professional demeanor made her decide to share. "My ex-boyfriend, Tyler, has been sending me threatening messages all week. We broke up 2 years ago, but he never accepted it. When he found out about the wedding, the messages got worse. He said he wouldn't let me marry someone else, that he'd make sure the wedding didn't happen. I told my parents, and we hired security, but I'm still scared he might do something." Rachel's military intelligence training immediately shifted into assessment mode. This wasn't just pre-wedding jitters or an overreaction to an annoying ex. This was a credible threat from someone who had demonstrated escalating behavior and made specific statements about disrupting the wedding. "Did you report this to the police?" Rachel asked calmly. "Yes, but they said unless he actually does something or makes a specific actionable threat, there's not much they can do. They'll have extra patrols near the venue, but that's it." "And you hired security?" "2 security guards from a company the hotel recommended. They're downstairs monitoring the entrances." Rachel processed this information quickly. Hotel security guards were typically trained for minor disturbances, not for determined individuals with personal vendettas. If this Tyler was truly fixated on disrupting the wedding, standard security might not be adequate. Amanda, I want you to know that you're going to have a beautiful wedding today. I'm going to make sure nothing disrupts it. Can you describe Tyler for me? And do you have any recent photos? Amanda showed Rachel several photos from her phone. Tyler was mid-30s, athletic build, dark hair, the kind of person who could blend into a crowd of wedding guests if he wanted. Has he ever been violent with you? Not physically, but he's broken things, punched walls, made threats. He's intense when he's angry. Rachel made a decision. I'm going to coordinate with the security team to make sure they know exactly who to watch for, and I'll keep an eye out while I'm photographing. If I see anything concerning, I'll handle it discreetly. Your day is going to be perfect. What Rachel didn't mention was that her coordination with security would involve a level of threat assessment and protective planning that went far beyond what a wedding photographer normally provided. Rachel spent the next hour before the ceremony doing two jobs simultaneously. Openly, she was photographing the bride's preparations, capturing beautiful moments of Amanda with her bridesmaids and family. Covertly, she was conducting the kind of security assessment she used to do for military VIPs, identifying potential vulnerabilities in the venue, evaluating sight lines and access points, determining where a determined disruptor would most likely attempt entry. She met with the two hotel security guards, showing them Tyler's photo and explaining the situation with an authority that surprised them. This individual has made credible threats about disrupting the wedding. He should not be allowed entry under any circumstances. If he appears, don't confront him alone. Call LAPD immediately and delay him until they arrive. Understood? The guards nodded, responding instinctively to Rachel's command presence, even though she was technically just the wedding photographer. The ceremony began at 1 p.m. in the hotel's grand ballroom. Rachel positioned herself to photograph the processional, but she was also scanning the crowd with trained eyes. 250 guests, mostly familiar faces from the reception line, but she was looking for anyone who didn't fit, anyone watching with the wrong kind of intensity, anyone whose body language suggested hostile intent. 30 minutes into the ceremony, Rachel saw him. Tyler had entered through a service entrance that the security guards weren't monitoring, wearing a dark suit that allowed him to blend with the formally dressed guests. He was standing in the back of the ballroom, not sitting, just watching Amanda with an expression that Rachel's training immediately identified as dangerous, obsessive focus mixed with anger. Rachel had seconds to make a decision. She could alert security and risk creating a scene that would disrupt the ceremony. She could ignore it and hope Tyler left peacefully, or she could handle it herself using skills she hadn't employed since leaving military intelligence. She chose the third option. Rachel moved smoothly through the crowd with her camera, appearing to photograph different angles of the ceremony while actually positioning herself near Tyler. She came up beside him, pretending to adjust her camera settings, and spoke in a voice only he could hear. You need to leave, now, before this becomes a problem you can't walk away from. Tyler looked at her with surprise and anger. Who the hell are you? I'm the person making sure this wedding happens without incident. You have two choices. Walk out that door right now, or I call LAPD and you're arrested for trespassing and violating a restraining order. There's no restraining order. There will be by the end of today if you don't leave immediately. And trust me, I have enough documentation of your presence here to make that process very simple for Amanda's lawyers. Rachel's tone was calm but absolutely firm, the same voice she'd used to brief military commanders on threat assessments. Tyler hesitated, recognizing that this wasn't a typical wedding photographer. I just want to talk to her. That's not going to happen. What is going to happen is you're going to turn around and walk out that service entrance you used to sneak in here. You're going to leave the property, and you're going to stop contacting Amanda. Because if you don't, I can promise you that the consequences will be more severe than you want to deal with. Something in Rachel's demeanor, the absolute confidence, the professional threat assessment, the clear implication that she had resources beyond what a normal civilian would have made Tyler reconsider his actions. He looked at Amanda one more time, then back at Rachel, and slowly moved toward the service exit. Rachel followed at a distance, still carrying her camera, making sure Tyler actually left the property. She watched him get into a car and drive away, then immediately photographed his license plate and vehicle description with her camera's telephoto lens. Old intelligence officer habits never really disappeared. By the time Rachel returned to the ballroom, the ceremony was concluding with the first kiss. Nobody had noticed the brief intervention. Nobody knew that a potential disruption had been quietly neutralized. Rachel resumed her position and captured beautiful photos of the couple walking down the aisle as newlyweds, Amanda's face radiant with joy, completely unaware that her photographer had just protected her day. During the reception, Rachel discreetly informed Amanda's father about what had happened, showed him the photos of Tyler's vehicle, and recommended they file for a restraining order immediately. She also briefed the security guards on what had occurred and suggested they maintain heightened awareness for the rest of the event. You're a wedding photographer. How did you know how to handle that? Amanda's father asked. I used to do security work, Rachel said simply. Before I became a photographer, some skills transfer. Security work was quite an understatement for 10 years of military intelligence operations, but Rachel had learned that civilians didn't need to know details, they just needed to feel safe. The reception continued beautifully. Rachel captured elegant photos of the first dance, emotional toasts, joyful celebrations. Tyler never returned. By the end of the night, Amanda pulled Rachel aside with tears in her eyes. My father told me what happened. That Tyler was here and you handled it. I don't even know what to say. You saved my wedding. I just made sure nothing disrupted your special day, Rachel said gently. That's what you hired me for, to capture the perfect moments. Sometimes that means making sure those moments actually happen. But you're a photographer, not a security guard. How did you know what to do? Rachel smiled. Let's just say I have diverse experience. The important thing is you had the wedding you dreamed of, and now you have beautiful photos to remember it. Over the following weeks, the story spread through Los Angeles wedding planning circles. Rachel Martinez, the photographer known for beautiful artistic work, had also quietly protected a bride from a threatening ex-boyfriend. Wedding planners began recommending her not just for her photographic skills, but for the subtle security awareness she brought to events. Rachel received calls from other brides who had similar concerns, ex-partners who wouldn't let go, family members who might cause drama, security worries at high-profile events. She found herself providing an unofficial service that combined photography with discreet protective observation. One particularly interesting call came from a celebrity wedding planner who was organizing a high-profile event with significant security concerns. Ms. Martinez, I've heard about your diverse skill set. We have a client who needs both a photographer and someone with security awareness. Would you be interested in consulting on the safety planning in addition to photography? Rachel considered carefully. She'd left military intelligence wanting to focus on creativity and joy rather than threat assessment and protection. But she discovered something important. Her training didn't have to define her work, it could enhance it. She could be an artist who captured beautiful moments while also ensuring those moments happened safely. I'm interested, Rachel said. But I want to be clear about my approach. I'm a photographer first. Security awareness is secondary. Discreet, protective, never disruptive to the celebration. If that works for you, let's talk. Over the following years, Rachel developed a unique specialization. She was still primarily a wedding photographer, creating beautiful artistic documentation of celebrations, but she also brought subtle protective expertise to events where security was a concern, not as obvious security personnel, but as someone who could observe, assess, and quietly intervene if threats materialized. Her military intelligence background gave her advantages that traditional security couldn't match. She blended perfectly into wedding environments. Her constant movement with a camera was natural cover for security surveillance, and her training in threat assessment allowed her to identify problems before they escalated. She worked with wedding planners to assess venue vulnerabilities, advised brides on restraining orders and protective measures, coordinated with legitimate security teams to ensure comprehensive coverage, and occasionally, when necessary, quietly intervened to prevent disruptions. But Rachel never advertised this aspect of her work. Her website showcased only her photography, beautiful images of joyful celebrations, artistic compositions, emotional moments. The protective services she provided were known only through word of mouth among planners and clients who needed both artistry and security. 2 years after Amanda's wedding, Rachel received a photo in the mail. It showed Amanda and Michael with a baby girl, along with a note. Thank you for making sure our wedding day was perfect and for giving us the foundation to build this beautiful family. We'll never forget what you did. Rachel displayed the photo in her office, not as a trophy of her protective work, but as a reminder of why she'd chosen this career. She wasn't just capturing moments anymore, she was protecting the celebrations that became the foundation of people's lives together. Her military intelligence training had taught her to identify threats, assess vulnerabilities, and protect high-value targets. Wedding photography let her apply those skills to protect something even more valuable than military assets: the joy, commitment, and celebration of people beginning their lives together. Rachel Martinez still photographs weddings across Los Angeles. She still focuses on artistry, composition, and capturing beautiful moments. Most of her clients never know about her military intelligence background, never realize that their photographer is also quietly assessing their safety, never understand that the beautiful photos they receive represent not just artistic skill but also protective vigilance. But word continues to spread among wedding planners and brides who need both: someone who can make them look beautiful and feel safe, who can capture perfect moments while ensuring those moments actually happen, who brings both artistic vision and protective awareness to the most important day of their lives. Because true service doesn't end with military discharge. It continues in whatever form allows someone to use their training to protect what matters. For Rachel Martinez, that means using threat assessment skills to protect celebrations, intelligence training to ensure safety, and artistic ability to capture the joy that happens when people feel secure enough to be completely present in their most important moments. The threats are personal rather than geopolitical. The protection is discreet rather than overt. The mission is joy rather than security operations. But the commitment remains the same: observe, assess, protect, and ensure that the people depending on you can celebrate safely. So tell me, have you ever discovered that someone in a creative profession had unexpected protective expertise? An artist, a photographer, someone whose background gave them unique abilities to keep people safe? Share their story in the comments below, because these are the stories that matter. Intelligence officers who never stopped protecting, who found creative ways to continue serving, who discovered that vigilance can coexist with artistry, and that keeping people safe enhances rather than diminishes celebration. If this story moved you, subscribe to The Human Stories for more accounts of specialists who continue their missions in unexpected ways. Until next time, remember that protection doesn't always come from obvious security. Sometimes it comes from the photographer who sees everything through her lens, who captures beautiful moments while ensuring those moments happen safely, who brings both artistic vision and protective training to the celebrations that matter most.